Welcome back, everyone. Kevin Carpenter, C++ Events, and I'm here with Robert, and I'm not going to try going with the last name. We tried that before in trial, and I got close, but we're here with Robert. And Robert's going to be coming to C++ on C June 23rd to the 25th, and we're doing workshops after this year. So at least for me, I'm super excited because normally as a volunteer coordinator, I'm always busy. I never get to do workshops. But because they're after this year, I'm actually going to be able to take Walter Brown's workshop on templates because I need help on templates. And so, Robert, it's good to see you. Thank you for taking time out in your afternoon for me.
Thank you for inviting me. It's great to be
So
here. Yeah.
you've been a professional developer for 25 years, 15 of them using C++ and Qt. So I have to ask, do you still use Qt a lot?
Yeah, it's my daily work. So I'm mostly on the UI side of things. Although nowadays I typically build the infrastructure so that our junior developers can do the actual UI. But I do the architecture on the client side, and we use Qt everywhere. So we use containers, we use the UI stuff, everything.
Gotcha. Does it integrate, okay, so I've only looked at Qt a little bit, which is not what this talk is supposed to be about. But since I've got you, because I used to do a lot of Visual Studio MFC, and that was my last foray into like GUI for Windows. And so with Qt, as I understand, there's a lot of custom types. Does that still interface fine with the standard library? Is there a lot of,
So I would say the UI side of things, they are pretty self-contained most of the
okay.
way. When you start using Qt containers, for example, you can make ranges out of them. You
Hmm.
can convert them back into ranges, into
Okay.
views, for example, and things like that. So they try to make it interface nicely with what's there in the standard library. I can run algorithms over a queue list or things like that.
Yeah. So working on long-lived software, you know how to create safe and reliable code. Obviously, if you've been doing this for 15 years, I like this urge to throw everything away older than 3 years. That prevents technical debt, right? Because you just get rid of it and start new. But you're smart enough not to. I see that in the line here.
Not all the time, at least. My boss
Um,
keeps stopping me too.
I just want to rewrite it. Just let me rewrite it. It'll be fine. It's only 6 more months. Um, so you enjoy working with others, obviously, because you're one of the co-founders of the C++ user group in Vienna as well, right?
Yeah, so that started pretty much exactly 1 year ago. And it started on a conference in Berlin 2023
Ah,
because I
okay.
met my future co-organizer on the train back to Vienna. So
Ah,
that's the history behind it.
right
And it
on.
was inspiring. And I thought, I'd like to meet C++ people more.
Yeah,
So let's make a meetup. I can
very
recommend it.
cool. Very cool. It is funny how some of the meetups have gotten really big too, because for example, the Denver C++ user group here in the U.S. Jason Turner, and there's lots of
Hmm.
people there, and and then it flows into some of the other conference stuff, which we'll leave unnamed because we're here for CPP on C++ on C.
Hmm.
So your talk you're doing, Safe and Readable Code, Monadic Operations in C++ 23. So I have to preface this where functional programming, I've seen lots of videos. I look at functional programming because I do C++, I do Go, I dabble in Swift. And to me, functional programming, I get the idea behind if you can write a pure function, then to a point you could replace whatever the function is with a lookup table. The same parameters going in, same result out, no side effects. That's my understanding of that. And so, how does Monads relate to functional programming?
Well, monads allow you to build complex abstractions while still maintaining this purity of functions.
Okay.
So you start with something, you need to convert it,
Mm-hmm.
and you want to separate the what you do from where you apply it so that you can keep using the same functions. I in one of my examples is I have a function that converts an integer to a string. formats
Okay.
it in a way. Okay, that's a very basic function. And I might want to keep using this function in various contexts.
Hmm.
So I want to use it on a vector of integers. I want to use it on an optional of integer. I want to use it on a future, which is a value that is computed in some other thread and not yet available.
Right.
So there's different ways. And then, of course, I don't just want to use this one function. I want to compose multiple of such functions. I want to do a calculation before, and then I want to format the output, and then I want to print the output. So I want to compose. But if I have something like a future, I have to wait for the result. Now
Right.
I wait for the result, I block my thread, then I do my formatting, then I maybe, or something else that takes longer, it blocks my thread again. I'd rather compose the whole thing up front and
Hmm.
then let it run independently. And at the end, I can basically take out my final result and I'm done.
So what I'm kind of hearing, and definitely correct me if I'm wrong, Monads kind of helps us more with the composability, where from the functional programming point of view, the function itself is more of the pure piece. The Monads gets us the composability, or at least helps with that, and with the varying types and such that might be involved in it.
Well, monads are a huge topic, and I
Yeah.
don't pretend that I fully understand them. That's the first thing. And I'm also not explaining in my talk exactly what a monad is. I
Yeah.
have seen a series of lectures by Bartosz Milewski, who has explained basically, who is built up over 10 lectures to finally explain what a monad is. I
Hmm.
simply don't have the time to do that on a conference, and
Yeah.
I also don't have the theoretical background to really do it nicely. What I have is the practical background of how can we apply these patterns in practical everyday software, and that's what
Okay.
I'm focusing my talk on.
And so from your talk, we're going to get the practical application, then of course the benefits that we get from them,
Yes,
and
exactly.
and
And the
with lots
pitfalls
of
that you might
examples.
have to avoid, which are not so much about monads per se, but about how the various monadic operations are implemented in C++ specifically.
I understand. And so in your experience then, from what you've learned, and I say this the same way, like when I started first learning functional programming, it's not that I actually can say I even do a lot of it in C++, but understanding more of it has helped me change my view. Like when I am writing operations, when I am writing code, I think about things in a different way. And so are you saying kind of the same thing? As you've learned more about monads, you've been able to see the patterns and apply it in your C++ code, and bring more of that stability out because of it?
That's certainly a point. Most of the things I learned were initiated when I had a piece of code that I was unhappy with, and I had no idea how to refactor it in a way that pleased me. And
Okay.
that's when I started looking for new tools and new toolboxes. And what really started me was actually a book by Ivan
Hmm.
Jukic, Functional Programming in C++. If I may, I can briefly
Yep.
show it.
Yep.
That was about 2018, around that time. And I mean, functional programming is not just pure functions and monads. There's a lot
Right.
of aspects to it. There is immutable data structures in general.
Hmm.
There is reactive reactive flows and things. There's a lot of different aspects to functional programming. And I'm picking out a few pieces in my talk that are now with C++23 well supported by the language and by the standard
Okay.
library, so that you can just take the C++ that you have, the compiler that you have, and just start using them and doing nice things in your code.
Very cool. Okay, so now I'm excited to come to the talk so I can see what the nice things are in C++23, because I know in the description you're talking about, using standard views and transform and join. Um, so, so to wrap up, give us your quick elevator pitch of why everybody needs to fill your room to come see your talk.
I'm not going to try to convince you that functional programming is the only way to go. I think a good programmer needs a big toolbox so that they have the right tool for the right job. And in some cases, monadic operations, also functors which are covered in my talk, ranges, views, optional, expected, in some cases, they are just the right tools for a specific job. And if you know them and if you know how to use them, they will make your life simply easier.
Excellent. And with that, Robert, we're still a little ways away, but I look forward to seeing you at C++ on C this year. Again, June 23rd to 25th. We got classes afterwards. Robert, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. It was a load of fun. Thanks.
Bye bye.
Bye.